this amazing, amazing day. I think we're celebrating Juneteenth, and we're celebrating freedom. We're celebrating Black excellence, and today is such an amazing day to do that. I got the amazing rendition of "Lift Every Voice and Sing" playing behind me, and it's such a great feeling to have that supporting the words that I'm saying right now, because what we're doing is looking toward the future that we have, looking toward the opportunities that we have to continue to be great as our people, and as a group of amazing people that I have talking today. We're going to learn a little bit more about the journeys. We're going to learn a bit more about the upbringing, the uprising, and the highs and the lows along the journey. And me being a young man myself, I didn't even introduce myself. My apologies for that. My name is Kofi B, and I am the moderator here. I'm also a musician, and I'm a pianist, but my resume fails to compare with these amazing, brilliant minds that we have today. But before we get any further into this event, I want to thank the State of Connecticut Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Commission, and also our other co-sponsor, the State of Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. And before we even go any further, it wouldn't be right unless we look to the hills, look to the man above, where our help comes from. So I'm going to introduce the amazing and the brilliant mind of the Reverend Dr. Jeff Powell. He's a senior pastor of New Antioch Baptist Church in Hartford, Connecticut. And he's also the father of one of our panelists that will be speaking today, too. So without further ado, Dr. Powell.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we come now, and we come with a thanksgiving spirit. We thank you, dear God, for this day. You made it. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Now, dear Lord, as we participate in this program, we ask, dear God, for your blessings. We ask, dear God, that you bless everyone that's on the program tonight. We ask, dear God, that you would just keep us in your will. Then, dear God, remember us to let us know, dear God, that you're still God and you're God all by yourself. And also let us know, dear God, that you still sit high and you look low and you got all power in your hand. We ask, dear God, to bless those that put this program together. Bless now, dear God, the ones that's on here that's going to speak. Bless as only you can in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Reverend Powell. We're going to continue forward. And I want to hear from the executive director of the State of Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. And one of the big reasons why we're able to even do one of these events is because of great women like her being able to be at the forefront of this, of making this happen. So without further ado, let me introduce you, Miss Tanya Hughes.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here this evening representing the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. We're the oldest state-sponsored civil rights agency in the country, coming up on 80 years of existence. And I just want to say thank you to Donna Campbell and the Martin Luther King Holiday Commission for the invitation to join you this evening as we commemorate Juneteenth in the state of Connecticut. Last week, I had the opportunity, along with Cheryl Sharp, our deputy director, to join our governor, Ned Lamont, as he signed the bill commemorating Juneteenth as a state holiday in Connecticut. Members of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, Kid Governor, the NAACP were amongst many of the attendees who stood with us in front of the Amistad, where Joseph Cinque, a Mende tribesman from present-day Sierra Leone, led the Amistad Uprising, which later influenced the U.S. abolitionist movement, law, and diplomacy. So today, I join you as we cry out in jubilation, but just for a moment, because there's so much more work to do. And how fitting is it that we're able to demonstrate to our children and to the elders of Connecticut that there are no boundaries where our dreams can take us. So to our young people, I encourage you to find your voices wherever you can imagine it, and to believe that I believe that we are just as inspired by our young people as we hope to be an inspiration to them. So I'm excited to hear from the great speakers that are here tonight who've made monumental influences in the communities across the country. And I want to offer to each of you a hearty, warm welcome home to New England. can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Man, just like she said, amazing speakers and amazing panelists that we have. I am just as excited, if not more. I was just telling them before we even started how excited I am to just learn and to just be a sponge, to hear the experience of these amazing individuals. And so I might as well just get to it. That's why we're here, to hear these brilliant minds. So let's do it. I want to introduce each of these individuals. But, the thing is that they all have these amazing bios. And these bios, there's one bio that I saw, it was about 14 pages long. So you know what? I'm going to not mess up the accomplishments. What I'm going to do is allow them each, 30 seconds to a minute, however long they feel, to truly encapsulate who they are to you, the viewer, and to me, the listener at this point, and the learner. Listen, so I'm going to get straight into it and introduce our amazing guests. All doctors, am I correct on that? We all are doctors. That's what I have written here. So I'm just going to reach out and give the names, and then you guys take it away from there. So we got Dr. Jeffrey Coleman, Dr. Benika Dixon, Dr. Sharrone Powell, and Dr. Corey Smith. I'm going to start with Ms. Sharrone. Give us a little background on who you are and how you got to the point that you are today.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Sharrone Powell. I am the proud daughter of Pastor Jeff and Gwendolyn Powell, who are also on the call this evening. I am a 23-year veteran educator, all in Charlotte, North Carolina. I currently serve as the principal of Oakdale Elementary School, where I serve 465 amazing students, grades kindergarten through 5th grade.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. What can you say about that? That's amazing. 465. I'll continue on. I'll go to Mr. Coleman. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the listeners as well.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Jeffrey Coleman. I am a product of Bloomfield, Connecticut. Went to Bloomfield High School and then went to Trinity College, where I did my bachelor's degree. And I also began my career in higher education. I've been working in higher education for over 20 years in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I took my experience as a African-American male, first generation from predominantly Black public school system, going into a predominantly white institution to focus my research and dissertation along the lines of how predominantly white institutions can create environments to enhance the success and graduations of African-American males. And so I left Trinity College after I got my master's degree from Central Connecticut State University in student development and higher education, and went to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I worked there for about 9 years or so as the assistant director of multicultural affairs, and I worked on my doctorate degree there in educational studies and professional and cultural studies, and then went to Georgia State University here in Atlanta, Georgia, right downtown, as the inaugural director of the Multicultural Center. Georgia State University is the largest university in the university system of Georgia, with over 52,000 students, and it's a majority minority university. And then went to Kennesaw State University, which is the second largest university in the university system of Georgia, with over 40,000 students, and then became a consultant. So I'm doing diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting, and also have had the opportunity to produce some publications as well.
Phenomenal. Dr. Dixon.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Benika Dixon, also a product of Bloomfield and Bloomfield Public Schools. After finishing at Bloomfield High School, went on to Spelman College, where I earned my bachelor's degree in chemistry. I also have a master's in public health from Southern Connecticut State University. Came home for a while, also where I started my public health career. After Southern Connecticut State, I went on to work several positions in emergency preparedness, public health emergency preparedness and response, both in DC, the city of Baltimore, as well as the city of Austin in Austin, Texas. So a wealth of experience doing public health preparedness and response, large-scale events such as presidential inaugurations and other large-scale events, festivals in the area of Austin, Texas. Then went on to earn my doctorate of public health and epidemiology from Texas A&M University. Stayed on there as a postdoc where I focused on COVID-19. Actually ran the logistics for COVID-19 testing for the entire Texas A&M system, which includes over 12 universities throughout the state of Texas. And I'm currently a visiting assistant professor in the School of Public Health, the Department of Epidemiology. And my work focuses on environmental exposures and understanding the health impacts of that on vulnerable populations, more specifically looking at environmental justice communities as well as incarcerated populations.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Dixon. I'm going to end it off with Dr. Smith. Tell us about yourself.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening. It is an absolute pleasure to be here, Ms. Campbell. Thank you for inviting me. I'm the same kid that you knew from 35, 40 years ago. And I'm sitting here in Jamaica. So please pardon the waves in the background. There's no way I was missing these. So long story short, I hear all these Bloomfield names coming out, but I am a product of Hartford / Bloomfield, Connecticut, and very proud of it. I live in New Jersey right now. I am an emergency medicine physician practicing for exactly 20 years. I can't believe I'm saying this. So, don't mind the grays, AKA the bald head. This is not just a fashion statement, but the hair doesn't grow anymore. But anyway, but yeah, I'm an emergency medicine physician. I've been doing this for 20 years. Moved to New Jersey 28 plus years ago to Rutgers University. Started Rutgers at the young age of 16 years old in college, and started med school when I was 19, where I kind of blew through college, got into med school through a BA/MD program, letting the world know that, as you see, Black folks, we do what we need to do. Got into a minority program that was really focusing on inner city / underserved populations, and letting the world know that we can do what we are here to do. And got into med school, got into residency in emergency medicine in Newark, New Jersey, and have been practicing here for 20 years. Some of my many jobs, knowing that I'm from Hartford and from Bloomfield, know that Jamaica, where I am right now, I'm actually in Jamaica. I'm Jamaican and had many jobs stereotypically, not only emergency medicine, but also a ringside position for the state of New Jersey. Also really taught those individuals in the pharmaceutical world how to detail physicians. Definitely in COVID, not only practicing emergency medicine, but ran 4 emergency departments for Summit Health, which is the largest physician-owned multi-specialty practice in the country. Also one of the partners in that organization. And I guess I wear many hats, and I'm just honored to be here to speak on what we as young, or I think still young, but young Black folks are doing in this world today. So thank you for having me.
Dr. Smith, did you say, I don't know if I heard you, you said you're in Jamaica?
Yeah, I am in Jamaica. So if you look right there, I am literally in Jamaica. No way was I missing this though.
So for those that didn't know, I'm pretty sure he's in Jamaica. There we go. We made that clear. No, I'm just kidding with you. Okay, listen. I'm aside from being envious of your current location, there's a similarity that I hear in all of your stories, and that's the dedication to the craft, to the journey, and the process as a whole. And I think that's easier said than done. Speaking for myself, being a young 22-year-old and a musician, and seeing success at a young age, and seeing like Emmy nominations and being involved with so many different things, which is great. But I understand that with all that comes a great deal of dedication to the craft. So I want to start off light, and then I want to kind of get deeper into a lot of my questions. But just in general, I want to just make this a dialogue amongst us all. So I want to know about the best career advice maybe that you've ever received, or maybe even to start off, I'll start with like a broad kind of questioning in general. Did you choose your career? Did your career choose you? These are all questions that I've always kind of wondered growing up. Now I'm 22 and I feel like I'm in the right thing that I'm doing, but what was it for you at the age of 22?
Well, I guess I'll chime in since no one's chiming in. I really sit back and look at my life, and I personally have always wanted to be a physician. Didn't have too many role models in the world of physicians, but the way I look at life is this: we all have been blessed with many gifts. You think about your gift is the thing or the things that you do without even thinking about. The things that you do best without any effort. And once you can really realize what you do best and can monetize that, work is not really work. It's just something that you just happen to get paid for as you do this gift, this thing. Me personally, I realized that, we all have these 5 cents, but I have the 6 cents of being able to connect with people. And I know, Kofi, you were talking about the different backgrounds we all have. I know growing up in inner city 91 Salisbury Street in Hartford, Blue Hills Avenue area, but going to Kingswood, Oxford in West Hartford, Connecticut. I started there in 6th grade. I started out at Faith SDA school, so I have to shout that out. I always felt like I was this kid that never fit in. And my dad would always talk about being a chameleon. And I realize now that, those feelings of never feel like you fit in were the things that now allow me to be able to fit in any environment that I can be in, whether white, black, Asian, you name it. And the way I call, my name is Corey, obviously starting with a C's. And I say, my currency is being one, convivial, being caring, and connecting with people and being relatable. And regardless of the field that you're in, for me as an emergency medicine physician, I have 30 seconds to say, hey, I got you. I've got to be able to capture your most valuable asset that you can imagine, AKA your life, your health, or your loved one's health, your child's health. And you got to trust me that, this little young kid from Hartford, Bloomfield, Connecticut has got you. And I use all these experiences that, Miss Campbell and Miss Richardson, all these people that have blessed me with their presence in life, been able to capture it and bring everything I've learned in my career to be able to say, hey, I can connect with you. I can be relatable. And once you can do that, and again, you have the right attitude. And for me, attitude is everything. You can say, there's nothing that I can't accomplish. If I can get through Trinity summer camp, Hartford Current summer camp, if I can go to Kingswood, being this little knucklehead from Hartford, Connecticut, what? Taking care of a patient's life, because I've been trained. I've been doing this for 20 years, taking care of 120,000+ patients. That's easy because I've had the tools, and not realizing that I've had the tools and the upbringing. I'm still going to be the same person that I've always been, be blessed in that, and realize that, I have everything that I need to be able to take care of someone's life. So, connection and being relatable for me is everything, and I bring it to everything that I do.
That's incredible. Dr. Dixon, what's your take on everything that I was asking?
So I'll say for me, the journey wasn't direct. Where I am now is not where I thought I was going to be or where I intended to be. I originally wanted to go to pharmacy school. For a lot of folks around Bloomfield and Hartford, I had been working as a pharmacy tech since the age of 16. And it was kind of my passion. It's what I thought I wanted to do. But I think we go through things along our journey that will kind of guide us and kind of change that direction abruptly. And for me, that was during my time at Spelman. I was a part of the Health Careers Program. And we had taken a trip out to DC. And we went to a conference that talked a lot about health policy and the impact that we all could have on the communities that we were from and on vulnerable communities. And to me, that really was touching because you always want to find a way to give back to the people who kind of got you where you are and to give back to home. And even now in my work, I'm always thinking of ways to tie it to things that impacted me in my childhood. So again, the journey just kind of morphed in its own. So I guess some of my advice is, number one, you don't have to know from day one what you're going to do, and that's okay. Even with me being in public health, I started out doing HIV and AIDS work, and now I'm doing more of hazard and disaster environmental exposure work, and that's okay. But there are always ways to connect it and to carry it back. So, don't be tough on yourself. Know that it's okay to kind of change your path. Make sure you have great mentorship. For me, that has been an extreme part of got me where I am. And I'm talking mentorship from some of those awesome teachers like Miss Fertiller, who I had in the first grade in Bloomfield, to, you know, the folks in my doctoral program. So it's okay to have, you know, questions and sometimes doubts on your journey, but know that you're going to be okay, and that it will all come together. And now I'm doing the work that I'm passionate about. I'm able to, again, take my experiences in my life to guide my research and the work that I do. It also guides my relationships with my mentees and my current students. A lot of our work is around engaging with community. So not just studying environmental exposures, but trying to find the research that gives communities the data and the information they need to then advocate on behalf of themselves. So for me, that's really important, that I'm just not going into these communities, doing the work and taking the data, which some academics do, but that I'm staying there and working with them to find solutions within the communities. So again, Corey said, like, when you're doing what you're passionate about and what you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. So whatever it is you do, make sure it's something that you really want to be a part of and that you're passionate about.
I love it. I love what you just said. You said letting your passion guide you. And that, for me, is, I think that's the most succinct way you can describe a fulfilling job and career. Dr. Coleman, I want to get your take on it as well as Dr. Powell. Tell me, like, you know, the journey for you both, and you know, how did this get here for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I had the opportunity to actually write my first narrative. And if you get a chance, there's a 3-volume series of a book called No Ways Tired, the journey of professionals of color in higher education. And I had the opportunity to do a chapter in the 3rd volume focused on senior level professionals. And I talked about some of the things that Dr. Smith and Dr. Dixon spoke about, the importance of developing mentor relationships. I think this wasn't something that I knew I wanted to go into. This wasn't a career field I knew coming out of college that I wanted to be a higher education administrator, but it was something that I think my experience sort of guided me in this direction. So coming to Trinity College from Bloomfield High School, I had never been around that many white people before. And that opportunity really propelled me into looking for mentor relationships and establishing mentor relationships because I knew that it was important to find a community of support. And then I started sort of actualizing what did that actually mean, and found out that there's a lot of research out there around being successful in college really depends on your ability to have a sense of belonging, a community of support. And so I developed that through my experience in college, and realized that in doing that, I was giving back to others who were coming behind me. And that was more so what I understood was my calling. And so one of the things that I try to focus on in my career is helping students identify what their purpose is and what their calling is. Because if you can figure that out, then you can align everything else in your degree completion along the lines of lining up with your purpose and your passions. And so when you figure out that this isn't just a job, but it's a calling, and so I'll get up every day. I know there's a need, and I'm going to work to try to meet that need. And it's something that you don't just turn off on the weekends, but it's something that you're always thinking about. And it goes with you everywhere. And so I think that's really been an important backbone in my professional experience, because I think any journey you take, you're going to run into some roadblocks, you're going to run into some challenges, you're going to run into some haters, and so you have to have that community of support to really help you overcome those hurdles. So I think those are some of the, I think, main ingredients for me.
Awesome. That's so great. Dr. Powell.
I would say a little opposite of the other panelists. I was born an educator. My career started 45 years ago when I was born to my parents. Education has been in my life all my life, and that is all that I know to do. I have always loved children. I have always been devoted to the growth of children. So I never had to teeter on where my life was going to take me, because I knew that education was it. And I knew that early education was going to be the stepping stone for my career. I had an amazing kindergarten teacher at Metacomet Elementary School. Miss Hurley bred the kindergarten teacher that I was. I knew the day that I entered her classroom and served as her swish helper back when we had to do fluoride treatments, I knew that that was where my life was going to go. So 23 years ago, when I walked in that kindergarten classroom and all that furniture was in the middle of the floor, I had no doubt that I was going to make an impact on the lives of children. And for the past 23 years, I have seen so many children grow and flourish, and proud to stand back and say, I know I did that. I had a hand in that. I tell my staff all the time that learning starts from home. And I was given the amazing opportunity to be born to an educator. My mother taught me everything there was to know from the very beginning. My father then flourished on making the good choices to get you where you are now. So just with those systems that have been embedded into my life, I knew that my direction and my path was going to be that little girl who grew up in Bloomfield to go on to impact the lives of other little girls and other little boys, and making sure that they are presented with the highest level of success, the highest level of experience possible. I taught 13 years in a very affluent school, very middle class, and that is from whence I came. But then 10 years ago, the Lord sent me a different direction, and he sent me to the children who need me the most. And those are the children who have the lowest socioeconomic status in the city of Charlotte. I have now served for the past 10 years to the lowest of the low. I have served children who have lived in homeless shelters. I have served children who have come from incarcerated parents, chemically independent parents. And I show them every day that this brown face is going to lead you into the right direction, and that your neighborhood and your upbringing and just the people that you have been around do not define your story. So I always have said that when I moved to serving students on the west corridor of Charlotte, that I don't have a struggle story. I didn't come there to say that I could relate with children who are homeless or children who come from low socioeconomic families, because I don't. But I come to show them that people whose faces are brown, just like mine, just like theirs, can definitely make an impact in this world. So that is why I do the work that I do every day. So what I would say is, remember your upbringing, remember your past, remember the people who stood before you. Because without Miss Hurley and the directions that she gave me at 5, I wouldn't have been able to pour that into the children that I serve now.
One of my mentors always tells me, titles are great, but purpose is better. You know, the ability to impact others and the ability to have a title, you know, while you do that makes a whole lot of a difference. But just to hear the fact that it's not just about the bio. I'm glad I didn't read it like that, you know, because I mean, when it comes down to it, yeah, you can read everything about an accomplishment that somebody has done, and I'm sure we've all been in those rooms where we meet people that can just talk a great game. But what is your impact? What's your purpose? You know, and I think it's so integral just to hear that, especially being in the education field. And I kind of wanted to switch lanes with that. And Dr. Powell, if you don't mind spearheading that conversation, you know, I want to know a little bit about. I want to speak, you know, especially about historically black colleges and universities, and you know, was that a part of your decision making? If it was, why was it? If it wasn't, why wasn't it? Do you, you know, feel like you would do things differently in your educational journey if you were to start over again? You know, would an HBCU be your option? Just talk to me a little bit about that.
Johnson C. Smith was my only option. I knew when I applied that was where I was going to go. And contrary to what my mother thought, who wanted me to attend Simmons in Boston, there was no way that I was going to remain up north because my roots take me south. So I knew it was time for me to go ahead and push further south. But Smith was a family, and that was how I was raised. It was all about family, and family looks out for family. So going to a HBCU allowed me to be with family. Those 4 years allowed me to meet and interact with so many people who could relate from my upbringing or who had no idea. But we all flesh together just like families flesh together. Because some of us are going to be high on the totem pole. Some of us may swim a little lower, but we still all flesh because we're family. So one of the things that Smith gave me was the opportunity to broaden my family. I am one of 2 children, so it was just me and my brother, and we are 11 years apart. So I didn't have a lot of close siblings there because when I was little, he was gone off to college. But Smith gave me those brothers, those sisters, those extra cousins, just to be able to lean off of. They are some of my closest friends. They are the people that I know now if I reach out to, they're going to show up. They are going to be there. My school just had an amazing community event, and my people came out because that's what they do. We support each other. So there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to a HBCU. I was going to continue on the road of being proud to be Black, but also being proud to be a woman.
Dr. Smith, I want you to chime in on this one for me, man. Talk to me about your educational journey and the benefits, or what you would have done differently if you would. Tell me.
I sit back and you look at where you've gone and where you are, and everything was an absolute blessing, down to being the inaugural class of Faith 7-Day Adventist School with Miss Richardson. Paula Thompson and Eric Richardson, and growing from there to being thrown into this whirlwind of a completely all-white environment of West Hartford, Connecticut, not knowing who I was and didn't know if I fit in, and going to school with the sons and daughters of the Budweisers. I'm actually very happy and very blessed that my father really enforced this idea of being one that is going to be able to not only just function, but thrive in any environment. Going from Faith to Kingswood to then Rutgers. I went to Rutgers University, like I said, at the age of 16. A lot of people thought, they were like, wow, were you just shorter than everybody? No, dude, I was 2-3 years younger than you. So I was the height that I was supposed to be. And started college at 19. I went to what I feel like was a small CBU university, in that we had 55,000 students, and 7 of those 55,000 students are Black. And I finally felt like I fit in. But now, not only were there Black students, but students of all walks of life. New Jersey, if you don't know, is the most diverse state in the union. Super diverse. I'm from north end of Hartford. It was either Black or Puerto Rican. That's all I knew. Going to West Hartford alone was like, whoa, okay. There's white folks in the world. When I went to New Jersey, people were saying, wow, there's Black people in Connecticut. I said, look, bro, you've been watching way too much Who's the Boss, brother. I'm from Hartford, so don't get it twisted. But the one thing I must say is that, to my point that I made earlier, I am so proud to be able to not only function in any environment. There's not an environment that you can put me in that I don't feel comfortable and can not only function, but do well and thrive. Whether it's the super elite of Short Hills, New Jersey, the next town over from me, the most wealthy town in America, or Newark, New Jersey. When I sit down and walk around in my Timbs and my sweatshirt and say, listen, man, I'm from Hartford. I know how to move. I know how to walk. I know how to get to the block, and or if I'm in Beverly Hills, it doesn't matter. But like I mentioned before, being relatable, that's where I'm so happy that not only being around Black folks, Jamaican Black folks, north end of Hartford, but also going to Kingswood and feeling really uncomfortable at a young age has now allowed me to be the first and unfortunately still the only Black department chair, physician executive out of 3,800 physicians at Summit Health in New Jersey. That has allowed me to, I don't look at titles as a big deal. Like, the way I was raised was that's what you're supposed to do. Like Dr. Powell said, listen, that's what you're supposed to do. My grandmother didn't come to this country for me to be messing up. My dad is from New Britain, Connecticut, from Atlanta, Georgia. Son, this is what you're supposed to do. I'm paying this tuition to go to Kingswood because that's what you're supposed to do. I want you to be able to function, and he raised me that, what, son, if you need to work twice as hard, that's okay. Work 3 times as hard. I better never hear that you've been out hustled, that you've been out work ethic. So, my choice in terms of college being at Rutgers, where there was a large majority of Black students, where I finally felt that I could be at home, I could be me, I can function. And again, like Dr. Powell was saying, surrounding yourself with individuals where success and doing well is the norm. I sit down and I talk now. I sound like the Al Bundy from, Married with Children, what I used to do at 45, But, we partied hard, but guess what? All of us got our work done. We got it done. I hear Johnson C. Smith. You might even know my homegirl, Javon, who went to Kingswood with me. Javon Price, now Javon Claiborne, who's also an emergency medicine physician. Talked to her yesterday. And I sit down, and that's how we move. I always surrounded myself with like-minded individuals, and I learned that from my parents. I'm so thankful for the parents that God blessed me with. That what, wherever you are, have fun. My mom, is Caribbean, Jamaican, have fun, but make sure you get your work done. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals. So to your point, man, I sit back and I look at the choices that I made and the situations and the environments and education that I've been fortunate enough to be in, that has allowed me to be surrounded by individuals to kind of keep me moving in a certain path that is progressive, number one, that is positive, and allows me to be able to function in any environment that I can possibly be in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith. And by the way, man, if you ever decide to just switch careers from medical director, I think comedy's in your future, man. You probably start a set in Jamaica.
Hey, man, I'm here all week, man.
My goodness, I'm over here trying to hold in laughter at the same time I'm moderating this thing, but that's all right. Dr. Dixon, I want to hear your thoughts on this as well.
So similar to Dr. Powell, there was only one institution for me, and that was Spelman College. I knew from the age of like 7 or 8 that was where I wanted to go. And when it came time to apply for college, I remember going into the counselor's office, and they tried to get you to go to UConn and Central. No, ma'am, no, that's not where I want to go. I want to go to Spelman. And I had some challenges in high school, some issues with teachers, and Mom came up to the school a few times and had to get folks together, but there were people who doubted what I could do. But I knew that I was capable of getting into Spelman and flourishing. And I remember when it came time, my mom was like, don't you think you should apply to a few extra schools? No, it's Spelman and that's it. And she was nervous. She was calling up to the school, seeing if they had, let out the acceptances yet, but that's where I ended up. And it forever changed my life. It gave me a sisterhood like no other. Similar to Dr. Powell, like those are my closest friends. There's nothing that I'm not going through that they aren't a part of. The hard times, the successes, they're right there by my side. Even, as a chemistry major, it was tough. And we had a group of us, we called ourselves the infrastructure. That was our little study group, our chemistry study group. And to this day, out of the entire group, everyone has a Ph.D. And there was that motivation. Like I took 1 year off and I remember thinking like, I gotta get back in school because I can't be the only one out of the infrastructure that does all over the country in different research positions and government agencies and academic institutions. We collaborate together now professionally, and it has given something that, I try to find a way to give back to my students. Texas A&M was something very different for me. That was the first time that I had attended a predominantly white institution. So the adjustment was somewhat difficult. Even now on the faculty side, I am the only Black faculty in my department. So I also realizing the role that I play for students now. So when Black students are coming for that program and they're looking for, folks who look like them or conducting research similar to what I'm doing, I understand the importance of me being in the space that I'm in now. So while I owe so much to Spelman and it got me to where I am, I do feel like the place that I'm in now is where I'm meant to be. And my role is to continue to mentor and provide all that was given to me to the next generation of researchers and scholars.
I want to ask you a question, though, and I'm going to get to you, Dr. Coleman, but I'm just intrigued. When you mentioned your friend group and you not wanting to be left out, did you feel it to be more of a pressure to have friends that highly brilliant, or was it more of a push for you? Because I feel like if I was in that situation, it's like, okay, I see my friends doing great, but now I'm like, dang, am I doing enough? Or what can I do to be better? Or am I good enough?
I don't think I ever questioned whether I was good enough. I think Spelman was just that place where you grew to be that independent person and to want the best for yourself. And like some of the other panelists have said, my parents instilled that in me, this is what you're here for. You're here to get these degrees and to continue pushing and striving. So I don't think it was ever a competition of like, oh no, I'm left behind and I've got to reach their status. But it was more of like, we came in this together and we set these goals our freshman year, and they would check in like, hey, what's up? What are you doing? Are you applying to those Ph.D. programs? So it was never, a sense of jealousy or feeling left behind, but it's motivation. And you have to have those like-minded people around you. And even today, some of my closest friends, again, are my collaborators when it comes to research. And, just being able to have those conversations and to have a group of women around me who understand what it's like day to day in academia, because I know Dr. Coleman can speak to it. Academia comes with its own set of challenges, especially being Black in academia. So Spelman allows me to still have that group of folks who understand what it's like.
I love it. You guys are helping me transition so well. But Dr. Coleman, talk to me about education and your journey with it. But also, if you can, give me that curve into the things that you have to deal with within your educational field.
Sure. So like everyone's mentioned here, I also had what we would describe as non-negotiable parents growing up. Most of the people on the call know that my mother was the one that drugged me to church, and it's still instilled in me. And my dad was the one that was talking to me about college I can remember him talking to me about college when I was in preschool at the Early Learning Center. And my dad, for him, it really meant a lot that my brother and myself, similar to Dr. Powell, my brother's 9 years younger than me, but it meant a lot to him that we would go on to college because he didn't get to go to school every day. He grew up in Cuthbert, Georgia, doing sharecropping, and there was some days that he couldn't go to school, but he had to do sharecropping. And so being able to go to college was like, a big deal. And so along those lines, when it came down to deciding on a college, all of my friends were going down south, like Bloomfield High, like everybody wanted to go down south. And I got accepted to Morehouse College, and I got accepted to Trinity College. And I went on the Black College Tour, historically Black College Tour, and we actually came down to Johnson C. Smith. I remember seeing Dr. Powell down there. And while I was on the tour, my mother called and she said, oh, by the way, Trinity College called and they wanted to let you know that they're prepared to offer you $14,000 in grants if you want to come to school there. And I said, oh, $14,000 in grants. And so then Morehouse sent the letter and said, you're accepted. So I said, well, let me call Morehouse and find out, what they're going to offer if I'm going to go to school in Morehouse. So, I said, can you send me the financial aid package? And Morehouse said, sure, congratulations, you've received $14,000 in loans. And I said, you got to pay those back, right? And they were like, yeah. And I said, well, I think I'm going to go over here with the white folks because they're giving away money over here at Trinity. So, and my dad was really excited. He really wanted me to go there, but he was saying that he was going to let me make the decision. But, it was a non-negotiable thing. We were going where the money was. So came to Trinity. And I will say being at Trinity, as Dr. Smith has mentioned, it really helped me to understand how to interact and engage with individuals from all backgrounds, right? So one of the things I will say, working in higher education, every institution has a mission statement. And within the mission statement, there's some kind of language around preparing students to be global citizens and impact societal change and be change agents and things like that. And in order to do that, you need to be able to engage with individuals from different backgrounds, right? Because if you're going to do business, you're not just going to want to do business in your own community, but you're going to want to do business across the country, across the world, in other environments with individuals who are from backgrounds that you're not familiar with or that you might be uncomfortable with. And I will say being in a predominantly white institution prepares you that opportunity. One of the challenges from an administrator side that we have is white folks don't really understand why we need to have cultural houses, why we need to have cultural organizations, why we need to have special funding, why we need to do special recruiting. And my job is really to help them to understand that when we bring in individuals from these different backgrounds, it benefits all students because white people need to know how to do business in other countries too. They need to understand cultural competency and how to, as we describe it, be able to shift your perspective and adapt your behavior to commonalities and differences that you are familiar with and that you are not familiar with and that you may not be comfortable with. And so those are skills that employers are looking for. And so when you present it to them that way, and then you bring them back to the mission statement that's on the institution's website, you said that you wanted to prepare your students to be global citizens and societal change agents. This is why diversity matters. This is why we need funding for recruitment initiatives. And then I get to ask questions, where are you recruiting your students from? Are we going to the same places because they're comfortable? Or, why aren't we going to Chicago? Why aren't we going to New Orleans? Why aren't we going to, Los Angeles? Like, where are we getting our students from? Because we need to be preparing our students for this global environment. It's really interesting, even at in an administrative role, and I talk with colleagues across the country. Whenever we have conferences, it's funny because they always have some of these like Black caucuses. So the Black folks get to come together and they talk about stuff like, how many people have experienced white women crying when they don't get their way, and like everybody like raises their hand and is like, is that like a power move? Like, and they typically get what they want. So we sort of process through that. But see, from the standpoint of being African-American male, we can't just cry in meetings. We can't just stand up and raise our voice because somebody be escorting us out of the building and stuff like that. So we have to be able to use data. We have to be able to speak intelligently. And I've learned that, and this is so funny, coming down south, you see these sort of microaggressions, and you see these sort of subtleties of, we want you here, but we really don't want to change, and we really don't want you to speak up. As long as, you sort of stay down here and do sort of these lower level type jobs, it's fine because we can say we have a diverse staff. But once you start going for your Ph.D., and you start getting these higher level positions, you're going to run into some of this covert racism that I will say happens, and this just prepares you for, society. You can be in a board meeting and they really don't want to listen to you, but I got my 3 letters behind my name now. So now you got to let me say something. You hired me to do a job. Now I'm doing anti-racism workshops and trainings, but it's making white folks feel uncomfortable. So now you want to say, I don't know if we have enough money for all that, but wait a minute. Didn't your mission statement say that you wanted to prepare your students to be global citizens in a global society? So we need to actively be anti-racist in order to do those things. And so one of the things that I think is important, Dr. Dixon talked about this, you have to have your community of support, because you need to be able to go back to those individuals, your mentors, your support group. You need to be able to go back to them and say, all right, I'm trying to do the work, but this is what I'm running into. And you need to be able to strategize. But I think that's what we have to prepare our generation coming behind us to be able to do. We have to prepare them to be able to speak intelligently and to be able to use data and be able to cite research, because that's how you're going to get the point across. That's how you're going to make an impact. And you don't just back down just because somebody says no. I always try to tie it back to, this is what we say we're supposed to be doing. So if we're not going to do it, then we need to change the mission statement.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of my mentors, she always gives me this gem as well. She says, systemic problems require systemic solutions, and at the end of the day, that is the only way we move forward in progression with this. But I do have a question for you, Dr. Coleman. I mean, I want to know, do you feel as if the educational system, and it might be a heavy question to unearth all at once, but do you feel like the educational system, at least in the U.S., has helped or hindered Black people's progress, or Black educators' progress as it's currently stated right now?
So one of the things I will share with you about the system of education, if you look at the history of the system of education, the way it was established to separate individuals. So when education was first established, you were training white men, Anglo-Saxon white men. You were also separating some of the immigrants, and you were giving them a different type of schooling, and you were preparing your women for domestic type service. And so from the very beginning, the educational system has been set up to separate different groups, and it has been set up to develop a class system. Now, when you look at higher education, we've gone a step further. We put money in front of the education. So if you don't have the money, guess what? You can't get higher education. If you can't get higher education, then you can't get those opportunities that you may want. Then that's going to impact your sort of the class, the socioeconomic class that you're going to sort of end up in. And then that's going to impact what neighborhood you move in, what tax bracket you're going to be in. So this is why you find that different school systems, we use Connecticut, for example, you can tell that there's different school systems that have different types of resources for their students, because it's based off of sort of that income value and the tax bracket that the parents are able to pay into. And so when I came to Trinity from Bloomfield High School, I sure thought I was going to be an engineer because I was great in math and physics. And I came to Trinity and I took calculus and I took physics, and I was like, this don't look like the calculus and physics that I took at Bloomfield High School. And I found it interesting that a lot of white students that went to boarding school or private school, they were partying 5 days a week and doing all these drugs and everything, but they were getting the highest grades. And I was like, why am I doing all the studying and I'm not getting the high grades? And come to find out, this was a review for them. They had really taken these courses in high school. And because in Bloomfield, the focus was on discipline and not really on college preparation, I had a different type of college preparation. So in my research, I wrote about how it's not necessarily equitable that we come into colleges and universities and we're not able to major in anything because of our educational background, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that we need to, at predominantly white institutions, at state institutions, even at HBCUs, we need to invest in having summer bridge programs so we can prepare our students so that they can start off at the same level playing field from day one in their freshman year, so that they can also major in anything. And we can also help them identify what is your purpose and what is your passion. Because, you know, one of the things we do in the Black community, we so proud when little Susie and little Johnny gets accepted to college, they get that church scholarship, and then we present them to the church, praise the Lord, they go on to college, and then we don't ever check in on them, right? Mm-hmm. They just go to college and they disappear. And what we need to do is prepare them to go to college, but also prepare them to get through college. So admission is just as important as graduation. So that's where I really feel my calling is in doing this work, preparing our students from our diverse backgrounds to be able to be successful in college and graduate. You know, and what are the resources we need to provide? And there's nothing wrong with providing those resources. But again, we should spend this money because this is what we say we do in our mission statement.
Sure, absolutely. So I want to kind of start wrapping, but as we're ending and everything, I'm thinking about just in general Juneteenth and the holiday in and of itself. And I'll be honest with you all, for me personally, and you know, I am, of course, younger, but I'm struggling to wrap my head around how to celebrate Juneteenth. And for me, in the standpoint of, you look at other holidays that have a definitive resolution, right? I'm thinking most Americans have now understood that July 4th is that Declaration of Independence, and nobody is, for the most part, still thinking that the country is still under a seize or control of anything else other than, you know, it being its own country. As for Juneteenth, now we're celebrating the freedom of slavery, but then I think of the hardships that Black and brown people still face on a day-to-day basis, and how it's still a variation of the hardships that we are trying to celebrate the freedom of. I'm wanting to know your take on what this means to you, and maybe you can help me, you know, have a new revelation for the holiday, because I can't find myself wanting to go and get discounts at Macy's for Juneteenth. I can't find myself the same way that I would want it for I don't know any type of holiday other than this one for me, because I still don't feel like it's a true representation of where we are as a society. So I want to start with Dr. Smith and then kind of work my way through, and I'll just want to hear and get some insight.
Well, for me, you know, first of all, I see a new face that just hopped up on the screen, so I have to respectfully say hello to my Aunt Garnetta. And I think about and I keep using this word, the blessings of my family. You know, I have been so blessed with the most supportive family that you could ever imagine. Back to your question, celebrating Juneteenth is about, you know what, I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to my family, to my kids, to my peers, like Dr. Dixon happened to mention, and Dr. Coleman, and Dr. Powell. You know, being the only, unfortunately, has been my norm, but my job and my responsibility to make sure that being the only is no longer. So as I teach my kids, you know what, who, God bless them, you know, they grew up in the suburbs, and they say, Dad, you know that person? Why are you talking to them? I said, it's my responsibility to not only give the head nod. It's my responsibility when I'm at Summit Health or at this one to say, you know what, I see a young Black face. I need to make sure that he or she is successful. That's my responsibility. That's what Juneteenth is about to me. It is our responsibility as individuals coming out of Hartford, in Bloomfield, being blessed with the aunties and the uncles and the parents that we've had, to make sure that we are not the only ones that have done well. My aunts and my uncles and my parents have not made these sacrifices just for me. They have done it for me to be able to take care of myself and my family, but to be able to reach out to others. So when you sit down in that concept of paying it forward, that is just a small way of saying, you know what? Oh, this is from Pat and Bill Smith. So when I see that young Black face, that young brown face, hey, oh, I'm supposed to do this because I have the opportunity to, because I've had ancestors that didn't have the opportunity or did, and now it's my responsibility. Notice I keep saying and rehashing that word. It's my responsibility to make sure that not only someone else has a chance, but someone has an open door. I heard the word mentor came out earlier in this conversation. There's a difference, in my opinion, between a mentor and an advocate. A mentor is someone that says, okay, let me show you the way, let me give you advice. An advocate is someone that opens doors. If we are not here to open doors, because we have plenty of Black and brown folks that have the curriculum vitae, have the resume, that have all of the skills and all of those accolades, but no one has opened doors for these people. It is our responsibility to say, you know what, I see you and I got you. And I'm going to make sure, like Dr. Coleman said, not just, hey, here's a church scholarship, thanks. No, I need to make sure that you complete this, that you get into college, that you finish college, that you get into med school. As my mentor, Dr. Kamal Khan, I always wanted to be a doctor, but I said, wait a minute, I don't even know how to be a doctor. I don't have any doctors in my family. He said, here is the recipe to make sure that you can do this. It's nice that you got into med school, bruh, but we need you to be able to finish. And not only to finish, but to be great. And when you are great, because you will make sure that there are others that will be great. So I can look back to my Auntie Garnetta that says, what, I'm proud of you, bro. I'm proud of you, nephew. And I can sit down and say, you know what, that's cool, but I got to make sure that if I'm the one that makes it through, I got to make sure that 5, that 10 make it through. So again, to wrap it up, Juneteenth is about our responsibility. It can't just be us. If it's just us, you know what, that's cool, but you know what, that's not what this is about. It's about having a responsibility as being one that has been blessed to have a door open for them, has blessed to have these advocates and these mentors and these great aunts and uncles to say, I love you. I got you. I support you when you're down, to say, I'm going to be there for others that may not have this. And guess what? I see you and I got you. And I'm going to make sure this happens for you.
That's powerful, Dr. Smith. Dr. Dixon, I want your thoughts. What is Juneteenth to you?
Juneteenth for me, especially being in Texas, it's such a big thing. And I'm glad to see that it's picking up everywhere and not just the Macy's sales. That's a whole nother topic. But for me, it's about giving back to the community, and not just the Texas A&M community or the Bryan College Station community, which, I've done. And last year it was, getting in the streets and educating about COVID and COVID testing and vaccinations, but also being able to give back to where I'm from. And I'm really hoping that this event and this conversation opens doors for us to continue to build partnerships and relationships back home. I know I don't get back to Connecticut often, but it holds a major place in my heart. And I'm hoping that we can start something off of this and we can keep something going in the spirit of Juneteenth and giving back. And we talked about, mentors and advocates and those who helped us get where we are. And I also see my aunt in here, Dorothy Biggs. And I thank her for also always instilling me the importance of volunteering and giving back. Working with her at Upper Albany Neighborhood Collaborative was, important to me, and it still is. And I really think that we need to get out in the community. For me, I try to be an open door for students who, want to learn about, higher education. As an epidemiologist, I think we're a hot topic, a hot commodity now because of COVID-19. And a piece of me is thankful for that, because before then, I don't think anybody really knew what it was that I did as an epidemiologist. But I've had kids who say, I'm really interested in what you do. And, being able to talk to them about what a disease detective is and what we do day to day. So I'm hoping that, in the spirit of Juneteenth, getting in the schools and talking about what we all do in our day to day and what the endless opportunities are for today's youth. They have way more opportunities, available than what we had. but we need to let them know what they are as well. Dr. Coleman talked about, the shock of coming out of Bloomfield and getting to college. I went through the same thing. I was top 10 in my class. You couldn't tell me anything. I knew it all. And I got in that first chemistry class at Spelman, and I had no clue what I was doing. So I think it's up for us to continue to give back and to motivate and to help educate the youth, and just show them that they can do it and that they can be here, and that, in the next 15, 20 years, I hope to see some of them on a similar platform doing the same.
Amazing. Dr. Coleman, what's your thoughts on Juneteenth? What is it for you?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I did a presentation at Kennesaw State for the advancement division, which are the fundraisers, predominantly white individuals in the division. And I did a presentation on why Juneteenth matters. And I got into a little trouble because white folks felt triggered, because in the presentation, I talked about Juneteenth, and I talked about why it still matters and why it's still relevant. And some of the things that I mentioned was that we still are finding challenges that Black individuals are still having to face. Most of down here in the wonderful state of Georgia, white folks are still trying to figure out if Black folks should be voting. Things like that are reasons why Juneteenth still matters. We still have police shootings that are happening. We still have, nowadays you're having shootings everywhere. You had a guy that shot up a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, because, he didn't like Black people. These are the reasons why Juneteenth still matters. And so I think we have to look past the Macy's sales, but we need to focus on the types of events that we're having that are focusing on what are the issues that we're still grappling with. And these are the reasons why, or these are the ways that we need to, I would say, take an anti-racist approach in our everyday work in our society. And I think those are the reasons why Juneteenth matters.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. Dr. Powell, close us out. What is Juneteenth for you?
It's about the education. Again, my impact on this community that I serve, my impact on the world is about the teaching component. Juneteenth is no more than teaching individuals what has occurred in our country, what has occurred throughout our lineage, and making sure that they truly have a solid understanding, but also that they don't live in that space, and that they don't reside in what happened before. We had no control of what happened before. We have all full control of what happens now. I tell people all the time, I have a 13-year-old amazing son who is watching me. If I do not teach, if I do not mold, if I do not provide the experiences for him, then his life is going to go down the wrong track. So I have to make sure that I lead him, that I teach him, that I expose him to the powerful things that are going to make him that 6 foot, 200-pound Black man that he's going to be in just a little while. Making sure that we are providing young children. And I look at my 5-year-olds that walk in the building every day and making sure that they understand the importance on learning how to read, the importance on learning those words and decoding those words and being those mathematicians is what's going to get us to a higher celebration of Juneteenth. We cannot live in the space of the fact that there was slavery. We know it. We understand it. There is nothing that we can do about it but continue to grow it higher and make sure that our kids know now we do not have to revert back to that situation. And yes, our face is Black. Yes, our face is brown. And yeah, there are going to be troubles in the world. There are going to be obstacles that they have to face, but you have to continue to use that strength that was embedded into you, that was ingrained into you in order to move on to your next. And that is where you reach down to that family lineage that you have, that support that we talked about with the parents and our aunts and our uncles and our family nature and our groups of friends and those like-minded people that we surround ourselves with. Those are the people that you put in front of children every day. Those are the people that you expose children to every day so that they can learn and see from those who have experienced and those who have lived and had these awesome opportunities. So Juneteenth is about the teaching, and it is about making sure that they understand that this is from whence we came, but this is not from whence we are going.
Mm-hmm.
I say,
Dr. Powell, can I chime in? You know, I sit back and again, having the privilege of, and I hate to really put her on the spot, but watching my aunt, and I sit down and I think of the power of our family, all of our families. Dr. Powell, I see you sitting there with your father, as I'm sure he looks at you and he is proud, not only of himself, but the great job he's done is raising a great young lady who is now a woman raising her own son. But I sit down and look at my aunt and I think of these Smith men and these Smith women that have raised me. And I said, my dad has always said, son, I better not hear that there's an excuse. To your point, you have no excuse. If I ever hear that you can't get ahead because of the man, you're going to have to deal with me. And that's what Bill Smith would tell me. You're going to have to deal with me. If you've ever been out hustled, out work ethic, because you have the opportunity, you can control that, boy. That is what Juneteenth is. You have the opportunity to do what you can do and achieve what you want and to be who you can be and want to be. And for all of us, it is our, again, bring it up, our responsibility to make sure that we open these doors for those individuals that are putting that effort out there and say, you know what, hey, let me make it a little bit easier for you, because that is our responsibility. So Dr. Powell, I appreciate you. Dr. Coleman, I appreciate you. Dr. Dixon, I appreciate you. My auntie, Ms. Campbell, Kofi, I just say, you know what, this is what Juneteenth is. Having the ability to be able to be here, the responsibility for us to be able to reach out to each other and say, you know what, I see you, I'm proud of you, and you know what, hey, holla at me, I got you. And to make sure that we all make sure we look to the left and look to the right, and not that look to the left and look to the right when we're in college and say one of us won't be here. No, brother, I'm going to make sure that you're going to be here. Sister, I'm going to make sure that you got this. You know what? Because if I'm here, I'm going to make sure I take somebody or multiple people with you, because somebody showed me the way. So it's my responsibility to do that. And you know what? That's why I'm here. So again, Kofi, I'm sorry but to interject, but I had to say that, because when Dr. Powell was speaking on that, I just said, you know what? That's what it's about. Macy's sale? I don't even know about a Macy's sale, because as my dad said, yeah, boy, you better stop watching TV. Them folks on TV already got their millions, so I don't even know there's a Macy's sale. If there is, okay, cool. I'm still shopping at Marshall's.
I thank you, Dr. Smith, and thank you for chiming in. I must be honest, I didn't have any expectation before I came on to this Zoom call. When Aunt Donna calls, I just answer. And I've never even done one of these before, to be quite honest with you. But man, I'm leaving this Zoom call with a greater level of appreciation for my own elders and my own, representation of Black excellence that I'm witnessing on this on this Zoom call, excuse me. And I think I hear a similarity and something that I've kind of always been saying when I'm speaking at these high school graduations, which blows my mind. I'm 22 speaking at high school graduations, but I always say what's next is right now. Your what's next is right now, and all it takes is one person to spark a change. I say it takes that one person to launch a community, and then it takes that community to ignite a city, that city to inspire a state, that state to revolutionize a nation, and that nation to change the world. And you guys are all just that representative of what each one teach one means, and I hear it in the way that you move. I hear it in your upbringing, and I appreciate it more than coming from a young person's perspective, just needing to hear that there are people in the world that look like me, that walk the paths that I've walked, that experience the things in life that I am experiencing now, and they've made it to that other side. They're still fighting the good fight, And at the same time, they're willing to reach out and extend that helping hand to make sure that we all get to that same place. So I can't thank you enough for allowing the time to be here. Thank you, Aunt Donna, who I have to professionally introduce here. The introduction of the commissioners, the brief remarks by Commissioner Donna Campbell. She's the chairman of the State of Connecticut Martin Luther King Holiday Commission. I want to hear from you, Aunt Donna. You got to unmute yourself, Aunt Donna.
Yes, that's the only way you can hear me. Kofi, thank you so much. This has been an incredible evening, incredible in every aspect of this conversation. My heart is so full right now to see these amazing people, these 4 people that I know personally. And then the 5th one, my nephew Kofi. You all have said things tonight that I'm sure will resonate in the hearts of many people. And the one thing that Dr. Dixon spoke on is that she wants to continue this work. And she wants to be a light in Connecticut, because that's where all of you are from. And I am hoping that this conversation will continue in Connecticut and that you'll be a part of it. I thank you so much as panelists tonight. You've inspired me. You've inspired my commission. We want to move forward in Connecticut. We want our young people to hear you, hear your voices, do some of the things that you do and do so well, and know that they can do it. I got a lot out of that tonight, that you can really do this. And to look at you, to look at all of you, I know your parents have been so motivated to push you way further than they've gone. And tonight, you have given them the reason to be so proud. I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you from my commission. And I just thank CHRO for being a part of this, to gather this all together. And Mr. Amazing Kofi B, Kofi, I thank you. You did a great job, as I knew you would. Round of applause in the hand. A great job. And I'd like you all to go on his website, and he'll give that to you in just a moment. I think you may have it already. But anyway, he has something coming up really nice next month. He is a finalist at the Apollo Theater. He is an accomplished pianist, and he's doing amazing things in his life. And he wants to continue his musical career by going to one of the most famous music schools in the United States. And I do pray that he will get there and get back there and just move forward. We're going to hear a lot. We're going to hear a lot from Kofi. So again, Kofi, thank you again. And one of the things that Kofi and I talked about and we're going to do is a part 2 of this type of forum. And we're going to have 4 more amazing panelists from Connecticut. One of them, I hope, will include the sister of our own Dr. Smith, Corey Smith's sister. So we're looking so forward to doing that in September. And I hope our listening audience will be a part of that. And speaking of our listening audience, I'm so happy to have you. So happy to have you join this celebration, this wonderful Juneteenth celebration of some amazing individuals who have chosen amazing careers, and they're stepping way forward and doing the things that they need to do to make us proud. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And I'd like to now introduce the committee, our commission. And so some of our commissioners are analysts as well for the committee. And so I'd like to call their names right now. And they are Mr. Samuel Bowens, Waterbury, Dr. Stacy Brown, Mrs. Althea Carr Hebron, Mrs. Karen Cato, Hartford, Mrs. Andrea Comer, Hartford, Mr. Guy Fort, Stamford, Mr. Seth Freeman, West Hartford, Attorney Anya Goldsby from Cromwell, Dr. Stephen Hoffler from Hamden, Elder A.J. Johnson from Hartford, Ms. Tashia Lewis, East Hartford, Elder J. Stan McCauley, Hartford, Attorney Stacy Morris from Farmington, Dr. Pamela Rivers from Waterbury, Mr. Bobby Walker Jr. from Greenwich, Mr. Christopher Williams from Hartford, Ms. Shari Woods from Farmington, and Ms. Kristen Shorter from Hartford. We'd like to thank all of the commissioners who work so hard to put this program together. The amazing job that they do across the state of Connecticut certainly makes us a viable commission for the state of Connecticut. We want this commission to flourish, and we need people like you every day to keep this commission moving forward. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And before I give the final remarks, I just want to thank, again, the panelists and certainly our own Reverend Dr. Powell. Jeff Powell, when I asked him, said immediately, I have to move some things around, but I want to be there. And I know it was most important for him because his daughter Sharrone was part of the commission. And I thank you so much for that. I'd like to thank the CHRO people for working so hard to help us make this possible. And the executive director, Tanya Hughes, who gave us our welcome this evening. I'd also like to thank Mr. J. Stan McCauley for always being there for us in our production efforts. He always comes through, and we thank him very much. I'd like to thank Mr. Commissioner Seth Freeman for doing our beautiful flyer and always doing our ads and keeping us on point. I'd also like to thank Glennis and Glenn Cassis, who are the site facilitators. Thank you so much this evening for coming through. I hope I didn't leave anyone else out because tonight is just a night of fulfillment. Dr. King would be proud of all of you. And that's why this commission means so much to all of us, because you mean so much to it by the work that you do. In closing, I'd like to again invite all of you back in September. Information will be forthcoming to come back and join us. And I want to say a special shout out to the people who are at the governor's office who are backing this commission up 100%. And as they do that, that means that we can move forward in our efforts. So once again, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Kofi B, for the amazing job and all of these amazing people that you've gotten to meet tonight. As we end this, always remember, look up, look out, look forward. And if you're going to look back, it's to get someone else to come follow you. God bless you and good night.
And of course, we can't forget two very, very special people. Commissioner Lori Stewart, our Vice Chair, and of course, our Chair, Donna Campbell. Good night.